welcome to Wrestling Academy. It's me, your Sam, self-appointed Homecoming King, and here I am, fearlessly, with my brother, Headmaster Michael Classic. Michael, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, again, I've just been noticing all week you've been showing zero fear, I should say.
I have zero fear today and all days, now that I'm here with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Just a fun little teaser for what we're about to get into. We're going to be talking about the Lucha Bros today. I'm so excited.
Me too. I've had so much fun researching for this episode, and I hope that y'all will have so much fun listening to all of our research that we did for this episode. Michael, what the hell are we doing here?
Well, what we're doing here is a little podcast called Wrestling Academy. What is it? Why did we start it? I think you could agree, Sam. You're a new fan. Like wrestling is a fun thing to get into, but it can be a little overwhelming at times. And so, I'm a lifelong wrestling fan. You're newer to it, and I think together we're diving into the history of wrestling to try to figure out what we love about it. Which is, let's be honest, is most things. We love most things about it, and we want to share that with you. So if you're newer to wrestling or you're wrestling curious, we're here to help. We're here to help you.
Yeah. Welcome. You're safe here.
I just wanted to, again, I think people think we're joking, but I just kind of want to touch on something we talked about in the last episode. Last episode, we decided if we get 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, Samee is going to put me through a table. And I think I've been hearing whispers, and I think people thought we were joking. And I just want
to. To you?
I was getting the whispers. I was out there. I was hearing it. Nobody believed us, Samee. So let me just reiterate for people. If we get 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, we will, for real, Samee will put me through a table. And again, I think you've been on kind of a journey with exactly how you're going to put me through a table, because every couple of days, I'll get a text from Samee being like, I'm going to RKO you through a table. And then a few days later being like, I don't know if I can actually do that. So it's like, I think right now, just take me through your thought process. Where are you at currently with putting me through a table?
Maybe right now at this point, because we've done all of our research for the Lucha Bros, I would probably put you through a table with a tombstone.
That's insane.
That is so insane. I can't believe I said that.
Again, that's the thing. I feel like whenever the cameras are rolling, you just raise the stakes to a deathmatch degree, to where, again, at one point you were talking about doing the John Cena me through a table, and you're like, that's like too much lifting and throwing. And then you're like, yeah, what if I tombstone pile drive you through a table?
I'm feeling really strong, Michael. And look, 1,000 people follow us on YouTube and make me have to do this, because I'm gonna have to do this. I want to do this.
Okay. Damn, dude. So that's the future. Samee, let's talk about right now. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Lucha Bros, it's a tag team made up of real life brothers, Penta El Zero, and his brother Rey Fenix. And currently they work in All Elite Wrestling, but they wrestled all over the place. They wrestled in the United States, Mexico, Japan, you name it, they've been doing it. They like tore it up in Mexico, tore it up in the American Indies, and are currently in AEW, Ring of Honor, that sort of thing.
And Lucha Bros, they wrestle, obviously, a Lucha Libre style, which we did slightly cover in episode 2. So if you need a little bit of a refresher, go back and listen to that. Or if this is your first episode with us, listen to this all the way through, and then peek on over to episode 2, where we covered America's Most Wanted, a GCW event. And that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, they had a smattering of luchadors, so we get into the history a little bit.
I guess a short definition, or a short explanation of Lucha Libre is that it's a Mexican style of wrestling that is known for being high-flying and, frankly, death-defying. And from personal experience, if you're watching it live or not live, basically it feels like you're on a roller coaster, and by the end of the match, you will have cried, you will have lost your voice, and I think you will have seen some of the best wrestling you'll ever see.
Just really gravity-defying acrobatics are one of the hallmarks of the luchador style. I mean, there's also grapples and submission-based wrestling, and then the masks, of course, are like another big hallmark. So both of the Lucha Bros both wrestle in masks, and Not much is known about their real life identities because they keep in the lucha tradition of not really showing much of their identity outside of the character that they play. So not a lot is known about their personal lives, but luckily they've had a pretty crazy fun history that we get into in a little bit.
And I really think that the maskedness of it all is super cool because everybody kind of respects that, and also it does feel like real life superhero stuff.
So, Samee, you didn't really
Mm.
know a ton about the Lucha, but did you have any experience with the Lucha Bros before we started researching for this episode?
I believe that I saw Ray Phoenix wrestling in the first live AEW event that I went to, but outside of that, no experience at all.
I think this will be fun to do. So, what I want to do is we're going to get into who each of the brothers are and get into them a little bit initially. So, I guess I just want to say, going purely off of visuals. So, we're
Mhm.
going to hold up a picture of Pentagon El Zero Miedo on the
Mhm.
screen now, and just like visually, what are you noticing about him?
Luchadors like have masks that I think are traditionally just like tied up pretty neat. They like end at the chin and stuff, and then they're tied on the back. But Penta El Zero Medio, his is kind of like a cowl or like, oh, the guys that like used to hang people. What are they called?
Like
Were
an
in charge of
executioner's
hanging people.
mask.
Exactly. So it kind of has the hangy thing like we've seen in pictures of executioners. He's got white contacts in, so it's all white except for like black pupils, and then he paints his chin white to be like skeletal and stuff. And then his gear is, it kind of feels like, I know that they didn't do this, but it kind of feels like Three Ninja-y, you know what I mean? Like the baddies would have this armor or these clothes with armor that kind of looks like scales a little bit, but it's also in the shape of like human muscles. He's very very scary, very intimidating. He looks like a freaking executioner.
He definitely has a very, especially in this picture, he has a very grim demeanor and
Mhm.
looks just really serious. And I would almost say like the way the holes in the eye mask are, it just seems like it makes it look like he's glaring. I've been a fan of Pentagon just sort of on the outskirts of being a wrestling fan. Like I didn't know much about him, and so he was always kind of mysterious to me. And so when we were going to do this episode, I really wanted to be like, okay, what is the Pentagon character? So here's what I found. I think the main takeaways just from looking at the pictures is there's kind of like a ninja element to him.
Mhm.
There's like very clearly some kind of goth element to him. And then there's some kind of
What makes you say
like,
that?
again, the face paint and the eyes, it feels skeletal or lizard to me. It also kind of feels
Oh,
very
sure.
like lizardy. And so I was trying to figure, or like dragon or something. And I was trying to figure
Mhm.
out like how all these ingredients go together. And this is basically what I found. So the character like gets its roots in like the 80s and early 90s in Mexico. Lucha Libre, they're like big promotions. One of the biggest promotions is CMLL. That's one of the big
Sure.
lucha promotions. And there was a luchador who was super into martial arts. And so like I think the way the story goes is that they were like, "Hey, don't train in martial arts, train in lucha instead." And so
Mm.
he took his martial arts tendencies, brought that into like the wrestling ring, and he was inspired by a Chuck Norris movie called The Octagon. And
Oh,
so, yeah, so then the wrestler became Octagon. And so he was
okay.
this very famous. And so basically, the character was he's a ninja luchador was sort of his whole deal. So he came out wearing like just a lot of ninja inspired gear, and then he was very martial arts based, and he was insanely popular. When they were doing that, they wanted to create a rival for him. And
Mhm.
so that is when they came up with, I couldn't find exactly which one of these was true. Like I saw some people say he's straight up an evil twin,
Right.
or he's just sort of an arch nemesis evil version of Octagon, and his name was
Sure.
Pentagon.
Right.
And so they have this whole long run It's like 10 or 15 years of just being rivals with each other the whole time. And what I noticed, and I think this is kind of a thing in Lucha that I've been seeing, is sometimes they carry on the lineage of characters. So if a luchador disappears or doesn't want to do it anymore, they might plug somebody just into the character. It almost feels like a bunch of people playing James Bond or a bunch of different people playing Doctor Who or something. So I think there's like something like 7 different iterations of Pentagon over the years.
Yeah.
So they refreshed the character a bunch of times. And then in 2012, in AAA, they want to basically reboot the Octagon character. And so they create a character who's basically the protege of Octagon, called Octagon Junior. And so they're like, if we're refreshing the character, we got to refresh his rival. And then that is where Pentagon Junior appears. And so Pentagon Junior is the Pentagon we'll be talking about today. So before he became Pentagon Junior, he was sort of a mid-level bad guy wrestler. Rudo is what they're called in the Lucha tradition. And his character's name was Dark Dragon. And so it almost, to me, and I don't know if this is true, this is just my own speculation, is it a little bit feels like when he became Pentagon and he kind of started doing the face paint, doing the eyes, I was like, oh, I wonder if he's paying a little bit of homage to his history as a luchador by throwing in a couple of little tiny reptile elements into the. I mean, I don't know if that's true. It could just be like, hey, I just want to be freaky, so I'm gonna put a skull. I'm gonna put like skull make. I don't really know. But what I was seeing is just like Pentagon seems like he really plays a lot with his character's lineage and presentation. So everywhere he goes, he changes the name a little bit. He changes the presentation a little bit, and so it does seem like he really likes to have fun in that way. So I could see him paying homage to his character's history. So like I said, Samee, there have been like 6 or 7 different iterations of the Pentagon character. Do you know why that is?
Basically it boils down to like a licensing thing. Like one Pentagon was like done being Pentagon for AAA or AAA, and he moved on, but they had to add like Pentagon Black, or there was also a Lady Pentagon and stuff. So there was just it wasn't everybody all at once being all of these different Pentagons, so it was a little bit of a timeline. Some people have said that the Pentagon lineage has been cursed. So I looked into the Pentagon curse, and this is what I found. The first Pentagon, his name was Jesus Andrade, and in I think it was a 6-man match where Rey Mysterio was also in the ring with him. Pentagon was thrown up and too high, and he landed in such a way that his like cervical spine just like crunched when he landed, and he was dead for about 8 minutes before he was able to be revived. And shout out to our friend, beloved Nick Gage, who was dead for 7 minutes. I can't believe what these wrestlers do for their lives. So that was the first Pentagon. The next Pentagon, or the next few Pentagons, nothing like super terrible happened to them. The worst thing was that they lost a mask in a Lucha de Apuestas.
Still bad, but not as bad as being dead.
Definitely not as bad as being dead. Pentagon 3, the third Pentagon, lost his mask and then later lost his hair, which is like, dude, stop wagering things. You can't handle your shit, dog. And we get to a version of Pentagoncito, who was kind of flying high for a little bit, but then was convicted of murdering somebody, but like his alibi was literally that he was wrestling at the time of the murder. So there was really no way that he could have done it. And his lawyers were so bad and neglectful that after he was sentenced 7 years, he was like, let me try to get this appealed. And his new lawyer was even worse. And so instead of 7 years in prison, he was sentenced to 20 years in prison, which Yes, does seem like a little bit of bad luck. So we have dead Pentagon, we have in jail Pentagon, and then the man who was ready to be the next iteration of Pentagon, Pentagon Jr., basically saw all of this stuff and was just like, I don't care. I have Zero Medio about it. And so that's why Pentagon, as we know him, is El Penta Zero Medio.
So he has a catchphrase and that's it. And so he's like got a hand gesture, right? And
Oh,
so
baby.
that is very much part of his character and his identity. And so it's like, I think he used that as a way to be like, no, I'm not afraid of this curse. I'm not afraid of like anybody I'm fighting. It kind of became his ethos. And so he took that and he sort of ran with it. And so it's like, I don't know. It was just, I knew there was a deep history if I just kept tapping this vein or whatever. So let's get into that's Pentagon.
I love
Let's
him.
get into his brother Ray Phoenix, who I think is he's a much like easier to pinpoint character. So let's like pull up a picture because he's not stepping into a character with, you know, a 10, 15-year lineage. He's sort of his own new and original character. So his name is Phoenix. He's pulling from the mythical bird, the phoenix. And so this is, if you had to describe him, what would you say, Samee?
I would say he's just like a clean, he's a clean guy. It's just a straightforward luchador. His mask is his traditional mask that just stops right at his chin. I did find out that he was Phoenix before, but then Rey Mysterio like basically allowed him to be Rey Phoenix or King of Phoenixes, which I thought was pretty rad. And so after he was given that title, he put a cross on his mask too to shout out Rey Mysterio, which I was like, you guys are so fun.
And I think also this is again without doing any further research into it, I would almost say that like Rey Mysterio is one of the legendary high flying wrestlers. And so I think him bestowing that title onto Phoenix, because Phoenix himself is an incredible high flyer. And so I almost wonder if it's like, hey, you're kind of carrying on this sort of Rey, you're getting the Rey Mysterio vibe. You got that high flying thing, like go be the king of the Phoenix.
Ugh, I love it. It is fun to like put these two guys together, Rey Phoenix and Penta Zero Miedo, because there is clearly a like light side, dark side kind of thing going on with the balance of their team. So we just went through Rey Phoenix and Pentagon and how they look and stuff. So I kind of want to play a game with you, Michael. I'm going to show you pictures of masked wrestlers, and I want you to tell me which animal you think they're going for.
Okay.
You ready?
As I'll ever be.
This is
where the headmaster gets exposed for being a fake fan. All right, let's get into it.
I honestly, I think you'll be okay. Okay. Here is the first one. So
what I'm seeing is it's like a guy in a purple and orange singlet. And then on his face, he's got sort of purple ears. So I'm just going to say, is he a cat?
All right. So you are looking at Battle Cat, spelled with a K. Brady Boone. That is Battle Cat. Good job, Michael. You're doing so well so far. All right, here's your next one.
All right, this guy, it's kind of a monochrome gray, almost like bodysuit with like this beautiful gray cape. And then the mask. So he's got this like kind of, again, monochrome thing. It looks like he's got almost like a lion's mane, cat ears. Again, it feels very cat-like to me. So I'm going to say the animal he's going for, I'm going to say a tiger.
Ding, ding, ding. That's great. You're correct. This is Black Tiger 4. So in this masked wrestler's history, this is the 4th iteration of Black Tiger.
So this guy, he's in sort of a blue t-shirt, and then over it, it's almost like a Stone Cold Steve Austin leather vest with his character's insignia on it. And he's got a mask that has sharp teeth and it has a fin on it. So, I mean, obviously, I feel like this guy's probably a shark.
You are correct. I had to black out his shirt because that is a shark on his shirt.
Hell yeah. Perfect. Perfect. Perfect.
This is Shark Boy, by the way.
Shark Boy, of course. Of course.
Okay, and I saved the hardest for last.
Okay. So this is a jacked dude. And all I can see is like a highlighter yellow mask. And he's an animal?
Yes, this is an animal, yes.
Okay. Because my first was going to be like, is he the sun?
That would be cool, actually.
That would be cool. Okay. A dog?
Yes, this is Yellow Dog.
Oh, like a golden retriever.
Yeah.
Cool.
There you go. And that's the game. You win.
Oh man. Honestly, dude, I don't feel. For the listeners, I was driving in my car on the way to the recording and was just like, okay, Blue Demon, El Santo, La Parca, who do I know? Like,
Well, you have to remember who your co-host is, and I love goofs. I would rather goof with you than make you look like a doofus. You know what I mean?
yeah, absolutely. Thanks.
Pro goof, no doof.
Yeah. Here at Wrestling Academy, we're pro goof, no doof. So that was the characters of Pentagon, that was the character of Phoenix. And so I think the place that they got sort of the reputation they have now, like where I think they first came on a lot of people's radars was when they were, because again, they fought in Mexico in AAA for a long time. And I think when they broke into like the American wrestling mainstream was they were on a show called Lucha Underground, which I did not see when it was happening live, but I would hear people talk all about it. And everything they said about it sounded so cool. And I was so excited that when we were jumping into this episode that I finally got a chance to like watch Lucha Underground for the first time. And it was a wild time. It was so much fun. And so to give you a little background on what is Lucha Underground. So basically it was a 4-season TV show. And the setup of the show is like kind of fun, kind of unique. So it's about the owner of Lucha Underground is this mysterious millionaire character named Dario Cueto, and he has this like secret location sort of thing where it feels almost like Mortal Kombat or something where he gathers the best fighter. So the secret location, he calls it the temple. And so he gathers the best fighters from all over to fight for like money and prestige and stuff like that. And so it has a really, really cool presentation. It's basically like, you know, a wrestling show like we're used to, but then all the backstage and interstitial stuff is shot like a movie or a dramatic TV show. So everything has this really heightened soap, like extra soap opera-y, extra like almost telenovela vibes to it. And it just felt really cool. And then everything that I was noticing about it is it has like, you know, luchadors in it. It has supernatural elements to it. There are times where it just gets insanely gothy for no reason. So it's like the in-ring action's incredible. It's these hot up and coming wrestlers. And then it's like they're fighting in these super goth matches. There's like grave consequences, casket match or whatever, that kind of stuff. It's just like, whoa, dude, this is crazy. And then occasionally it'll just be like, oh, hey, by the way, this guy is a god. And you're like, oh shit. So
Right. I love it. As I was researching and stuff, I saw comments from, I saw a few comments that were like, yeah, luchadors are like kind of notoriously bad on the mic. So in my brain, I was just connecting the dots and like assuming that they made Lucha Underground so that they could tell stories like the WWE wrestlers do, but because everybody kind of sucks on mic, that they did it that way so that everything was easier and like made like this really rich and exciting story.
I watched the first couple of episodes because in Lucha Underground, Pentagon and Phoenix make their debut in the 3rd episode. And so I was like, all right, let's like pop it on and let's just like check out what's going on Lucha Underground. And dude, I'm so glad that I did because it was just like so insanely fun. So the episode I was watching, basically in the first couple of episodes, a wrestler named Chavo Guerrero, who deserves his own episode, just like a very legendary wrestler, has just like the fact that he's never gotten the glory he feels like he deserves. He's just been on this absolute tear of attacking people. And so there's this super dramatic scene where he's just like walking through and a guy stops him to be like, "Hey man, we see what you're doing. We got all these guys coming up from Mexico to like fight in the temple, and they see you disrespecting the like lucha lineage. So like watch your back." And it's just like, again, it's just shot so dramatic and so dark. And he's just like, "Hey man, I'm here to win the title," or whatever. And then as soon as that guy leaves, he turns around and he's face to face with this masked luchador named Mil Muertes. And this
Oh my
dude is
God.
like just a stone statue. He's just so
Yeah.
thick and muscular, and he's just got this like super intense like face, and he's just like, he's nose to nose with this guy, and then he just walks away, and then Katrina, his manager, walks up and she does the talking for him, and she's basically just like, he doesn't like what you did. And so you're just like, oh man, he's on everybody's shit list, right? And
It's
then we cut to the
crazy.
owner, and he's basically like, "I've got some of the hottest new luchador, like up and coming luchadors, and I want to have them fight each other." And so this very first match is between Phoenix, Pentagon, and a guy named Drago, who's basically, it seems like
His mask is sick.
his mask is sick, and I think his deal is he's just a dragon. I think that's his character.
Incredible. I
Like
love it.
in amazing like prosthetic work in what it
Oh
truly
yeah.
feels like if you were to go to, you know, a haunted house or something. It's like professional grade, looks like a dragon on his face or whatever. Because again, everybody else usually does like a cloth mask, but it's felt like plastic or foam or something.
Yeah, he's got a 3D printer for sure.
Yeah, it was insane. And then again, yeah, these guys put on just this amazing match.
It was intense. Yeah.
Super intense, so fun. Like again, it's high flying. These guys are luchadors, and again, it's very early in the show, so they're showcasing their skills to be like, all right, yeah, this is what I can do.
Did they mention that Phoenix and Pentagon are brothers? I
No,
didn't
they
hear that,
don't.
right?
Because again, it's
Yeah.
like they are brothers in real life, but kind of their entire early careers, from what I could tell, is they were always kind of in each other's orbits. So they would have rivalries with each other even before they
Yeah.
became, when they were still up and coming and they weren't the established Phoenix and Pentagon. They were still like feuding with each other, doing matches with each other. So they've always been around each other. But I think at this time, they're very much going as single stars. So they don't really team up at all here. Some other notable stuff that, like, because just the more I was getting into Lucha Underground, the more I was just like, oh, I just want to stay here forever. This is so fun. This is so great. So I guess
Let's do a watch through sometime in the future.
I would love to, because there's plenty. I honestly think we should do like a whole episode on Lucha Underground. It was so fun. Basically, what I was seeing is in the early seasons, Pentagon, because, you know, he's a bad guy, right? And so he has this whole storyline where he has like a mysterious master that he's sacrificing people to, kind of like the Undertaker when we talked about it. But unlike the Undertaker, the way Pentagon sacrifices people is he breaks their freaking arm, dude.
My God,
Yeah.
this is okay. Which sacrifice method do you prefer?
I would much rather the Undertaker method, because here's the thing, Pentagon still uses the arm break in his moveset. I mean, again, it's this intense, like he basically puts his knees on your back and then falls backwards, and your arm just goes like, and it looks so intense. And so he's just going on this run of like sacrificing people, and it's like so bizarre. And then we find out that his mysterious master, the guy that he's been serving this entire time, is the ring commentator Vampiro, who is like a wrestler in his own right. And so it was just sort of like, you thought, like, because they were feuding at the time, so he basically was like, oh, you thought you were against me this whole time, but you've actually been serving me this whole time. And it was like, oh. And so basically Pentagon like goes into seclusion, and then he comes back and basically becomes a new version of himself. He becomes Pentagon Dark. And basically the whole point was like, to become who I need to be the champion, I had to go to an even darker place than where I was at. And so again, it's like when he first shows up, he's in that kind of traditional Pentagon ninja gear, but when he becomes Pentagon Dark, that's where it's like the whole costume becomes jet black. And he's just like, I went to my old master, Vampiro, who betrayed me, and he took me to the darkest place imaginable. And that's who I am now. I'm Pentagon Dark. And everyone's
my
like,
God.
like I watched the promo. It's intense, dude.
It's really intense.
Because again, he's not he's speaking in his native Spanish, and so it's just like, I think I just want to point out about Pentagon just from seeing him is like, this dude talks so much trash while he's wrestling. It's
He talks a
unbelievable.
lot. Yeah.
He does, but it's like he also just has this like real like gravitas to him. So like watching him cut this promo and being like, I went to the depths, like the darkest place imaginable. Like, this dude is so.
Like, yeah, you did.
I don't want to mess with this dude at all. This dude is so insanely scary. And this is also, I think, a really good time to. I want to tell this story because I actually did. I met Pentagon one time.
You went to the depths of darkness to meet Pentagon.
Dude, okay. So here's the scene. There was an independent promotion I used to go to all the time. We're going to reference them. They'll factor into a later part of this story. But the name of the promotion was Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, PWG. They had this, I believe the event was Tremendous 5 or whatever. So I like show up. We're like at this theater. I'm kind of milling around. And the way that it works is the wrestlers are out before the show selling t-shirts. And so I was just like, kind of got like my wallet being like, oh, let me like just walk around. Let me see if there's any wrestling t-shirts that I like. And so it's empty. Ringside is empty. So I'm just kind of like walking around, looking at the shirts. Nobody's around. I get to the corner of the ring, and out from around the corner pops Pentagon. And he's like in his full like black, like white eyes, skeleton face. And he just like pops up and he's just like, oh, hey man, how's it going? Samee, I don't know how to put this. It truly felt like I was face to face with a tiger or something, or like a snake or just something. It was just like I've never felt that in my life where I was like, this guy could fucking, he was totally chill, by the way. He was like totally cool. But it was just
Buddy.
because he was being so nice, it made me get even more scared. And so he was just like, hey man, do you want to buy a t-shirt from me? And I went, and I like felt my body without me doing it. I like felt my hand. My body was moving automatically. And I just like grabbed my own wallet and I open it and I just hand him like $30 for a t-shirt. And he's just like, hey, thank you so much. And I was like, of course. Absolutely, of course. And I like took the t-shirt and I like ran. I was so embarrassed because I was just like, again, he was so nice. He was so cool. But I was so unbelievably scared to be like, because I've only ever seen him be this tough, roughneck dude. And like, again, the character is so intimidating that when I was 2 feet away from him, I felt like wrestling was real, dude. It was like, in that moment, it was real. And I was like, I'm so afraid of this guy. He's being so nice, but is he doing that just to fuck with me? Like, what's about to happen? So I paid him $30 and I fucking booked it.
Just imagine being one of his opponents, like knowing that he's about to fucking get you with his mallet hands.
Yeah, he's about to chop me. He's about to kick me in the face. Like, this dude, he's gonna yell at me too. And it's like, no, dude.
And welcome to the podcast. Our first guest, Penta El Zero Miedo. He's actually in your room.
Yeah, again, truly, it's like I remember driving home and being like, man, I'm such a geek. I can't believe because he's like he's just a dude, you know what I mean? Like he's a professional. He's at his job, but it's like, he's not gonna kill me. Like, that's not gonna happen.
Or is he?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Actually,
we don't know how that curse goes, dog.
Yeah. So anyway, that was the one time I met. That was the one time I met Pentagon. I do think that's like important to note is every time I've seen him like interviewed outside of the ring, he seems like a totally cool dude. But when he's in the ring, the Pentagon persona really scares the hell out of me. It really scares me in a way.
Yeah.
Anyways,
that's totally fair.
So back to Lucha Underground. So like we said, Lucha Underground ran from 2014 to 2018. So in that 4-year stretch, there were only like 9 champions the entire time. And both Lucha brothers ended up picking up the gold while they were there. So Phoenix became the 3rd ever champion in the Lucha Underground promotion, and he dethroned that big intimidating guy we were talking about, Mil Muertes. And Mil Muertes was like the second longest reigning champion in Lucha Underground. He held it for like almost a year straight. And then Phoenix was the one guy who was able to topple him. And do you want to know who the longest reigning champion in Lucha Underground was?
Oh my God, tell me.
Motherfucking Pentagon, dude.
Yeah, boy, Zero Miedo. Okay.
I think that's the mark of a good gimmick like that, where it's just like, oh yeah, you just want to do it all the time. Just when you see him do it, you're like, it's so cool, and I feel so cool just disrespecting the fuck out of people.
Here's the thing that I'm thinking about. Like, do you think that he would be as popular with you if there wasn't this to do?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, don't get me wrong, it definitely helps, but like, because his brother Phoenix has his own where he goes like Animo or whatever, which is kind of, I think it's kind of like let's go from like what I was looking into, because Phoenix is a lot more of a technico. His is very much like we can do it, you guys, and Pentagon's is more like, hey, fuck you.
Like in what he does is in ring, and he puts the M on everyone's face.
If the kid, if this is you, he's just coming to you live and direct, being like, "I'm not afraid of you, dude." It's like slapping you in the face with this. It's
I have taken to doing the Zero Miedo on my girlfriend's face, and she's not a fan.
Nobody's a fan. It's like it feels bad. It's kind of like taking off a glove and being like, "Hey, but," and you're just like, "Ah." It doesn't hurt, but it feels bad. It feels terrible. But still, it feels, I mean, again, like I do the Roman Reigns all the time. So I'll just walk through my apartment being like,
beep, beep, beep.
Yeah, acknowledged.
Does anyone acknowledge you, Michael?
No, my roommate does not acknowledge me.
Fair.
Yeah. So that was Lucha Underground. So around that time, again, they're starting to become very popular in America. And so I think this is when they finally start teaming up as brothers. So this would be like midway through Lucha Underground. So it's like 2015 range. And then that is where the story we're about to tell is going to pick up. It's a multi-company, multi-year spanning rivalry between the Lucha Bros and another team called the Young Bucks, who also happen to be a tag team who are also real-life brothers. So to get into the rivalry, this goes all the way back to September 4th, 2016. The promotion I was talking about, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, where I met Pentagon and got so scared I gave him $30. They hold an annual tournament called Battle of Los Angeles. And basically, it's like an elimination tournament that takes place over 3 days. And
That's
so
crazy.
If you win, it's like it was a big deal in independent professional wrestling. You know, like normally that person was a big, hot up and coming star. And so to win the Battle of Los Angeles was a very cool honor. So in the 2016 Battle of Los Angeles, both Pentagon and Phoenix entered as single competitors into the tournament. But unfortunately, they both lost their qualifying round on the first night. And so in the second night, they join forces as a tag team, the Lucha Bros. And they go on to fight again, another sort of thrown together tag team of Chris Hero and Tommy End, who were also competitors in the tournament. We watched this match, Samee.
We did.
You seemed down on it. I had a great time.
I had a great time too. There are just two things. Well, there are just like, I'm just being a dick, I think, at this point about this match. It is a really, really incredible match. I think both teams are really excellent. Tommy End and Chris Hero are wearing like long long tank tops, so they go all the way down to the bottom of their trunks. And they're, I mean,
so it kind of looks like
dudes.
They're walking in not wearing pants.
Yeah, but like I feel like it's just even more silly to see their trunks like a little bit underneath, like kind of like a peekaboo short. And I don't know what it is about me that I was just I was definitely not on their side when I saw them. And it took a little bit for me to come around to them. And again, that is a problem that I have that I'll have to talk to a BetterHelp therapist about.
Yeah, honestly, dude, this is kind of
Sponsor us.
please. So this is kind of to me. That's wild to me because I picked this. I like sent you this match to check out because I really thought you were gonna vibe with Tommy End because I feel like
Really?
yeah, because I feel like he's kind of got the presentation. He's in AEW now. He's a wrestler named Malachi Black. He was Aleister Black in WWE. But basically, his whole thing is he's like Norwegian death metal, dude. So he
Yeah,
comes
I don't
out,
think that's my
leather
vibe.
vest, tons of tattoos, and he does these insane kicks to people's faces.
Sure. And that usually would get me, but not this time. Not this time.
Yeah. But again, like I said, I think the match is like really spectacular. So
Oh, it's really beautiful.
it takes like the Pro Wrestling Guerrilla used to take place in an American Legion Hall. And so when I was watching the tape, it really took me back to a super nostalgic place, which is maybe why I'm overly positive on it and you're a little more critical of it. But to me, it's like
Sure.
I remember driving out to Reseda and seeing those shows and just like it's just like this very packed, tight little ring. And it's like again, the Tommy End and Chris Hero, they walk out to the ring, and someone in the crowd, maybe time traveling Samee, just like starts being like, "You guys fucking suck, fuck you!" And then Tommy
That
End
was me.
stops
That
what
was
he's
me.
doing,
Mhm.
turns, and he like hops outside of the ring and like goes and gets in this dude's face. And it was just like, man, these guys are fucking cool as hell. And so they come back into the ring, and then Pentagon he like talks shit to lure them
Yes.
back into the ring. And so you're just like,
Uh-huh.
man, these guys can't catch a fucking break. And then they go in, and again, this is peak indie wrestling in the like 2015s, where it's just
Sure.
like chops and kicks and elbows and flips, and it's just like, oh my god! Like I was just sitting there, I was levitating, whereas Samee was just like, could crop
Mm.
those shirts, boys.
Just cut a little, let me see a belly button. You know what I mean?
For sure.
I mean,
They take the
the thing
shirts
that
off,
also,
like they don't wrestle in the shirts. They're
sure.
not doing it
I
Winnie
mean,
the Pooh style.
which, you know what? That would have gotten me back over. But I think the other thing that kind of pulled me out of it was that the commentators, uh, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but the commentators for this match were not great, and they said a lot of stuff that I disagreed with. Well, actually, they said one thing that I disagreed with, and then I just disagreed with everything else that they said after. But they were like, "Oh yeah, luchadors are really underrated technicians." I'm like, that's what they do. What are you doing? So once they said that, I was like, I'm out. I'm out on these commentators. And I think I needed to take a walk
Yeah, that's so
before
funny that you
finishing.
say that because one of the commentators is Excalibur, who's like a really good commentator on AEW. So again,
Well,
like
now
when you were sending me this like super like you were coming in hot on this match
I
where
was
it truly just made
hot,
me like,
bro.
damn, Sammy has like entered their hater era. Like what is going on here? We got fucking Dave Meltzer over here. What's happening?
The commentators did a 0 out of 5. No, I don't know. I feel like because I'm so new to wrestling and stuff, and like thus far, I think I lean on the commentators to kind of fill in the blanks. It's kind of what they're there for, right? It's like filling in the blanks, calling out moves and stuff. And so when I have a little bit of knowledge now and hearing them be so wrong, I felt a little slighted. Like, oh, okay. Like if somebody else watched this and like just like took that into their heart, what a disaster.
So Sammy, I'm gonna just like put you on the spot right now.
Put me.
Are you saying you think you could do better?
No, but for the podcast, I'll say yes.
All right. Hey, I need you to take it again where it's just like you're confidently going to say yes.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Sammy, I'm so glad you said that because I've got a little game that I'd like to play with you where I'm going to show you a clip from this match and we're going to play it without sound. And I want you to commentate over it because I just want to see it. And again, here's the rules. We're going to do it. The clip is a minute long and we're doing one take. So what you do is what you do. We're not doing it again.
Right, because it is live.
Yeah, it's live, one take, and this is it. No backing out. So how do you feel? You ready to compete?
I just want to remind everybody that I am pro goof, no doof.
Yeah, for sure. And I
pro goof, no doof.
Yeah, no doof,
All
dude.
right.
I got you. You're safe.
You don't got me,
No, you're
Michael.
safe. No,
Okay.
Samee, you're safe. You're safe. Just trust.
It sucks. Put in all of this. No cuts. No cuts.
Yeah. No. Okay. So
Okay. Phoenix is. Oh, there's a kick that he dodged, and he goes up on the thing, and he doesn't. They're exchanging kicks right now, and I forgot. Is this Chris End?
Nope.
Tommy End.
Yep.
They're jumping around. It's Phoenix and Tommy End, and they've reached a silent agreement that they won't mess with each other with their legs on each other's shoulders. That's very, very good. There's a bit of respect going on. Oh, wow, what a thumbs up. Somebody make a gif out of that. Ray Phoenix.
All right. So we can go ahead and pause it right there.
Yeah, I don't want to do this.
So, Samee, you bailed and then you started doing the commentary that was in the commentary.
I did. Yeah, I did. I did do that.
How did that feel? You did it. How do you feel you did?
I feel fine.
Do you think you did Do you think you did a better job than the PWG commentators?
How would I have done a better job? That is literally their job.
I don't know,
Michael.
Samee. Again, I was just
pro goof. No,
okay, I feel like Sammy's turning on me now. They're lashing out. They're lashing out at everyone.
I've been turned on you, Michael.
So, Samee.
What, Michael?
Would it make you feel? Would it make you feel better if I did one?
Do you want to do one?
Sure. I mean, again, just like you did one, I could do one. Do you want to see me try?
Yeah.
Would that make you feel better if I tried one?
No, because I don't want you to look like a doofus, Michael.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it. I'll select a time. How are you feeling? Are you nervous? Are you excited?
Yeah, I'm nervous. I'm nervous, excited. We'll see. I'm gonna really try. I'm really gonna try to go for it.
Okay, I believe that you can. You like to commit to bits. I bailed.
Okay, all right. We've got all heroes eventually die, pacing the ring, stalking around like animals playing with their prey. We're a capacity crowd here in Reseda. The Battle of Los Angeles 2016. Chris Hero. He's got Phoenix up and a kick to the face. Tommy End meets him with a kick. They're in a sort of deadly harmony with one another. Oh, another double kick right to the face. Here we go. They've got deadly intentions as they throw the Lucha Bros into the ring. Clothesline. They're running across. Oh, reversal. The Lucha Bros have turned things around. They're staring. They're getting ready to go. Phoenix, huge chop to Tommy End right there in the corner.
Nice.
Chris Hero is lumbering towards the ground. They're getting into position. They're maneuvering. Phoenix climbing up with bad intentions on that turnbuckle. And a kick to Chris Hero. What is going on? Stomp! That is a stomp from Phoenix right to Tommy End. And a flip right into the corner into Chris Hero. And the Lucha Bros have turned things around. Cover 1, 2, and that's a kick out at 2. Tommy End is still in the fight. Reseda, Battle of Los Angeles. Pentagon is trying to get this crowd on their feet.
That was great, Michael. Your hair got out of the way. There's got screaming going on. That was good.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, again, I was just, I was hoping you would dig deep into yourself and do it like that. I wasn't trying to upstage you. I was just trying to help you unlock your potential.
I didn't think you were intending on upstaging me, but now that you've said it, it feels like you were intending to upstage me.
Nah, dude, I would never do that. Hey, you're safe. Come on, dude.
I'm not safe. You done proved me to be a goof. Now you gotta get it. You gotta get a new freaking teacher's assistant. The internet's not gonna let me do this anymore.
What if I had you do it? What if I had you just do it one more time?
No.
Okay.
I don't have the chops yet.
Okay.
I don't have the language. That was really good, Michael. That was really good.
Thank you. Again, I appreciate it.
Maybe I'll be inspired.
I can't believe how much you have to talk as a commentator because
it's a lot.
I was like, I just have to keep saying shit. Like I kept being like, I can't let it die down. I want to just sit there and watch the match, but I was like, how the hell does Michael Cole do this all the time? To just be like constantly like juxtaposing. Yeah, man, that was rough.
Yeah, that was great. I really loved the calling the capacity of the room. I thought that was really funny. And actually, I do want to maybe spend time in another episode talking about the psychology behind always calling out how many people are in the audience, because I think that that's, they do it every time, and there's got to be some reason for it.
Yeah, I think it would be kind of fun to do a commentator special. I think we
Oh, we
should. We
will.
should do an
We
episode all about
definitely will.
commentators.
It's Wrestling
And hey,
Academy. We gotta.
maybe we'll do this again, but we'll do it as like a team so we could like play off each other.
You son of a bitch. You're a son of a bitch.
Yeah. Okay. So that's Battle of Los Angeles. That's night 2. The Lucha Bros win that match, and they go on to night 3, where they challenge the Young Bucks to the Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, the PWG tag team titles. So like the top titles. And so I think the thing to keep in mind about the Young Bucks, especially at that time, is they were like one of the hottest independent tag teams. And the Lucha Bros as a team were still relatively new. So they challenged the Young Bucks and they fail to capture the gold. But I would say it's not because they suck or anything. It's just the Young Bucks were on an unbelievable, just absolute tear. So let's touch on them briefly, because they're going to become a bigger role in this story in just a little bit. So who are the Young Bucks? I think the Young Bucks 100% deserve their complete own episode. Like they are.
Oh yeah.
They are like, not exaggerating at all, are like one of the most influential and highly decorated tag teams of the modern era. That like the way they wrestle, they were in a group, a class of people that completely changed the way everybody wrestles nowadays. Like they completely changed the style. They changed how to do business in a lot of ways. So it's like their marks all over the industry, for good or for bad. Some wrestling purists like really don't like these guys, but it's like their influence on the wrestling industry, they changed literally everything about it. Like no, not even exaggerating, and
I love that.
are incredible in the ring. So like, I think the way to talk about like how so it's like, if you're new to wrestling, a way to sort of think about how they changed the wrestling industry is, in wrestling, like they are fighting, feeling each other out, and they build up to one big finishing move. That's kind of how most wrestling things go. So like Shawn Michaels, for example, his big move is it's called a super kick. So it's like he's fighting, he's wearing you down, and then at the very end of the match, he hits you with the super kick, and then 1, 2, 3, that's the end of the match. The Young Bucks just start super kicking people immediately. It's basically like if you're playing a fighting video game and you just start doing all the powerful moves right in a row, that's how the Young Bucks wrestle. So it's like they take the exciting parts of the ends of matches, and that's just their whole match the entire time. And so it's like they wrestle at a super fast pace, and they hit crazy moves and combinations just like as throwaways. So it's like they took Shawn Michaels' finishing maneuver, the super kick, and they would do these things called like super kick parties, where basically they would just line you up and just take turns super kicking you 10 or 15 times in a row.
That's
and then it got to the point where like in the indies and the independent wrestling scene now, everybody does a super kick. It's just sort of a like transitional functional move, whereas it used to be like a big finishing maneuver that everybody used to do, but it was so beloved that they were like, oh, everybody loves the super kick, so we'll just do it. And then they did. And so yeah, and so they do like cool crazy flips, they move fast, like all that kind of stuff. And so a lot of, again, wrestling old school people, wrestling purists were like, they are killing the wrestling business because they're wrestling at such a rapid, high stakes pace that it trains audiences to not be patient anymore and not respect it. And I just want to say, look, I'm a fan of Zack Sabre Jr. matches where it's just two guys rolling around trying to get the best submission holds, right? Like, I'm a fan of the long, patient test of strength, all that kind of stuff. I'm also a fan of the Young Bucks, like jumping, flipping around. And so I think the Young Bucks took that notoriety and we're like, oh, well, that's just going to be our gimmick now, is we're going to be these like obnoxious, cocky, like brats who are destroying the wrestling business and only care about making money. And so that's kind of what their characters are. So at the time when they were around, everybody's character was just sort of like, I'm a serious badass fighter. And so they would dress in like neon pink and stuff and come like dancing to the ring. And everybody was just like, who the hell are these guys? And then they would do the crazy like super kick parties. They would do all the flips. They would do all the stuff. And people were like, this is so unbelievably fun. And I think it was like, they were part of a whole crew of people that kind of changed the wrestling landscape back when they first came on the scene. But not without their share of controversy for the style and the way that they wrestle. But you can't deny that like these guys are good in the ring and they're good at the business side of wrestling too. Like they were some of the wrestlers that I saw who really understood that merch was an important part of the game. So they would
Oh, sure.
always, every couple of months, be one of those wrestlers with like really cool t-shirts all the time, and made it possible for you to like find them online and have like an online store where they got to keep the money. But they also started like their own behind the scenes vlog that kind of just showed like, hey, we're
Sure.
going to do like goofy skits and sketches and stuff, but you're also going to see what it's like to be an on the road touring wrestler. And all these things made the wrestling industry like so much more accessible and so much more fun, that it's like that's part of the reason why they're as popular as they are, is they like understand what fans want and they give it to them. And then I think some people are like, it pushed people into having like a more high stakes, more riskier style that, you know, people can get hurt and it shortens their careers and stuff like that. But again, I just want to say, at that time, the Young Bucks were at the peak of their popularity. So they meet the Lucha Bros, who are right on the come up, and they have this like first initial clash, and it was just sort of like, oh yeah, of course the Young Bucks win. The Lucha Bros don't challenge for gold. But I do think it did kind of get on people's radar. That's like, oh, there's a new tag team in town. And I remember that was kind of the vibe, especially on the independent scene, where it was like nobody could touch I'm not saying there weren't incredible tag teams, but it's like it really felt like nobody could touch the Young Bucks. And it wasn't until the Lucha Bros came along where you're just like, maybe
I
somebody
see.
can actually, like, maybe they've got some real competition here.
So you were experiencing all of this stuff like live.
Yes.
Dang.
When I was getting back into wrestling, it was like the Young Bucks were like absolutely everybody was talking about him, and they were like, these guys are cool. They're in the Bullet Club. Like they're bringing back the Suckets and the Two Sweets and all that kind of stuff. They're like linking up with Kenny Omega. They're doing stuff with him. And then it's like, again, we were talking, if you want to know more about Kenny Omega, like go back to our Kenny Omega episode to get more about him. But like as popular as he was, they were popular like that, but as a tag team. So it was just like these guys are going and doing these incredible tag team matches. Because I think at the time, I truly think because of people like the Young Bucks, like they really put a lot of emphasis and spotlight on being a tag team. Because I think a lot of times, especially in that time period, it was kind of like, yeah, you know, there are teams and it's fine, it's whatever. And then as soon as the Young Bucks came through, they were like, no, it can actually be its own really cool, really exciting things. And there are a lot of really good benefits to being in a tag team. And I think
Roger, yeah.
because they were so good and so prominent, it gave rise to other people who were like, yeah, we like to do this too. And then there was kind of a renaissance of tag team wrestling. I honestly think the Young Bucks helped usher that in. There was like a real hunger for good tag team wrestling, and then these guys came in.
Yeah, well, they mentioned it in the AEW matches that we watch, or especially the first one because it is the first AEW pay per view that we watch. But I think the commentators were really driving home that idea that like this is new tag team and this is how it goes. So that's
Mm-hmm.
love that.
From this first encounter, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla 2016, I think the two teams kind of go their separate ways, and so it's like the Lucha Bros, they're bouncing around the Indies, the Young Bucks, they're bouncing around the Indies, they're over in Japan, they're doing their thing, and their paths don't cross in a super significant way
Mm-hmm.
until the birth of a company called All Elite Wrestling. So,
Mm-hmm.
what is All Elite Wrestling? AEW. I too think AEW deserves its very own episode, but here's just like the briefest what you need to know. So I keep talking about that time period, right? Like the 2015s to like 2020, how there was a real renaissance going around because of people like the Young Bucks, because of people like Kenny Omega. And another big indie wrestling favorite was Cody Rhodes. He was a member of WWE, got really burnt out, and he was like, I'm going to go make a name for myself in the independent scene. So he was wrestling everywhere. He was in New Japan. He was part of the Bullet Club and became so popular as like this guy that WWE completely overlooked. And then he bet on himself. He went on to the independent scenes and he's having these like incredible matches, these incredible runs. And it was getting to the point where they were so popular that people were going places just to see them. You know what I mean? So it's like people were going to New Japan to check out Kenny Omega, to check out the Young Bucks, to check out Cody Rhodes. You're like going to like selling out pretty much any indie promotion that they were going to show up in. And at the time, there was a really distinct ceiling to that. So it's like you could only become so popular because the biggest game in town was the WWE, which had the creative frustrations that came along with it, especially during that time period. Things are like completely different there now. But at the time, there was like it all kind of ran through Vince McMahon. And if he was sort of viewed as being out of touch. And so there was like kind of a ceiling to that. So it was getting to the point where it's like these guys were talking about it like, we don't really know what to do because we're kind of at our peak popularity. We can do whatever we want, and there's kind of nowhere for us to go. And then the way the story goes is I believe it was like Dave Meltzer had an interview where he said, like, yeah, I mean, these guys are popular, but they couldn't sell out a stadium. And Cody Rhodes was like, oh, we can't. So they had this event called All In where they got the Sears Center in Chicago and it sold out within 30 minutes. And I was part of this. Like I bought a ticket. I flew to Chicago because I wanted to be a part of this.
Oh,
It was
shit.
like, it was so exciting and cool to be like, I love wrestling so much and I believe in what these guys are doing. And they put on basically ostensibly an indie show in a stadium, and they did it with like it felt like you were watching like a real wrestling show, something like the WWE, and it was all independent. And it was like one of the highest selling independent shows ever of all time. And the event went so well that it caught the attention of a billionaire named Tony Khan. And they kind of got linked up. And then from there, they were like, hey, this all got, like this is so popular. Like, what if we try doing this as like a real company? And that became All Elite Wrestling. Yeah, that company got founded in 2019. So when we're talking about wrestling history, that's how old AEW is. It was founded in 2019. You know what I mean? Like it does not go back
before the lockdown.
Yeah, a year before the lockdown. I mean, again, like WWE goes back to like the 80s and 90s. So like AEW as a thing 5 years old. And so I think sometimes, like, this is just my own headmaster rant here, but I think sometimes people are like, AEW needs to get it together. They have no idea what they're doing. And it's like yeah, dude, because the WWE's been doing this for like 50 years. It's been doing this since like 30 years, something like that. It's like totally nuts. Like, come on.
Yeah. Relax, everyone.
Everybody chill. So anyways, neither here nor there. In the context of the story, AEW, they're founded January 2019. And they're having this like big press conference where they're going to talk about the first big event that they do called Double or Nothing. At the press conference, they're like having wrestlers who are going to wrestle for AEW come out and give speeches and kind of talk about their mission and what All Elite Wrestling is all about. So the Young Bucks come out to like talk about it being like, hey, we believe in this so much. We're like partial owners of the company. Like we're here. We want to do this. We want this to be like a cool place for tag team wrestlers. And then who should crash the press conference but the Lucha Bros?
Gasp.
They show up and they just start wrecking the Young Bucks. And they like, I think, yeah, they take them out with super kicks, do all kinds of stuff. And they officially challenge the Young Bucks at Double or Nothing. That's where this rivalry escalates. But this is kind of the issue. AEW, brand new company, right? So they don't really have prestigious titles to fight for yet. So if they want to put something on the line, they need a way. I think they need a way to like escalate this feud. So here's something that's kind of interesting about AEW is you've got the companies like WWE, you sign with them, you're there exclusively, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something that AEW does that I think is really cool is they're not exclusive with their talent. Like, I guess if this were a relationship, AEW is in a poly open relationship with all their talent where they're like, hey, we know you're based here, but if you want to go out on the indies, you want to go wrestle in Japan, you want to go TNA, whatever you want, like, feel free. We love that
we
for you.
want to go TNA.
Yeah. And so it's like, but again, then you have the freedom to come back and then like fulfill your contract for AEW. And so it's like, it is these top guys got to then, get really popular on TV and then go out and make their fortune back on the indies, or just get to like wrestle new opponents all the time. It's like a really cool, fun, and interesting thing that they get to do. The main problem that AEW has in 2019 is they're a brand new company. So they don't have a tag team division, let alone tag team titles that they can officially start fighting for. So I think to elevate the feud that they're in, they wanted to put some titles on the line.
Okay.
So what they do is the Lucha Bros are also affiliated with AAA Wrestling down in Mexico. So we go to an event called Rey de Reyes, King of Kings. And Samee, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I did a little bit of research on Rey de Reyes, but what's really, really cool about this competition is that basically the winner of Rey de Reyes gets a sword, and you don't have to protect the sword. Like, it doesn't change hands, basically. So if you're the winner of Rey de Reyes, you get a sword, and that you're the King of Kings for that year.
In my research, it does seem like it's like a tournament, right? So a bunch of wrestlers come and they're all trying to become, the Rey de Reyes, right? And in WWE, there used to be a tournament called the King of the Ring. Oh. And it was a similar thing where it's like a big tournament where the winner becomes the King of the Ring and gets a crown.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
And so sometimes someone would win the crown and then they would change their character to be like, I'm a king now. And so it's very fun. It's usually pretty cool. But again, it's like, so instead of a crown, it seems like AAA, they give you a sword, which is pretty badass.
So cool.
And
so cool.
I just want to pull up this picture right now.
Yes.
Pentagon actually won Rey de Reyes a few years prior to this feud. And so there is this picture of him with this insane badass sword.
I love it. It's so cool.
And again, it's just like, man, this dude is so metal. Like, you just see him, he's like holding it, and you're just like, oh my God, this is incredible. Fits him very well. So 2019, we're at the Rey de Reyes tournament, and the Young Bucks defeat the Lucha Bros and pick up the AAA tag team titles.
This is some asshole behavior because they stormed the event. So the Lucha Brothers had just defeated another team for the titles, and then the Young Bucks came and, I don't know, benefited from them being like exhausted by the match before.
Yeah, in their vulnerable state, they slithered in and they were like, we challenge, and then they beat him, I guess.
It was sad. And hearing that AEW didn't have titles and so they had to figure out a creative way to do it, like, this makes sense. But before I had that context, I was just like, these sons of bitches just roll up to Mexico, steal fucking titles from this hardworking team. How dare they?
They were like, these guys attacked us at this press conference, so we're gonna fly to Mexico and fucking take their titles. Like, again, it's just like, whoa,
real colonizer bullshit.
Yeah, some real. Yeah, what was the official wrestling stopwatch on this match then?
The official wrestling stopwatch on this match was 6 minutes and 32 seconds. And I watched this match, and the commentators were in Spanish, obviously, but I was watching with subtitles, and I stopped it at a point because the translation struck me as a little fun. The Young Bucks like to do a dual sharpshooter, and the English translation, or where I stopped it, is almost double cross is half a crab or scorpion, which I think really paints a picture of a sharpshooter.
So okay, so they are kind of referencing some wrestling moves in here. So there's a type of submission hold called a Boston Crab, where you basically, if you're laying down flat, I would like sit on your back and then pull your legs and knees under my arms and then just start leaning back. And
Yeah,
so
and
I'm
you're
like bending
facing
your
opposite directions.
yeah. So I'm kind of reverse cowgirl, and I just like
Whoa,
grab
bro.
and pull back. Yeehaw! Again, me and my me and my elementary school friends used to put each other in Boston crabs all the time. Like this it hurts. This feels bad. And then the scorpion is probably the scorpion deathlock, which is very similar to the sharpshooter, but that was Sting's sort of big submission move.
Oh,
So
okay.
they could have been putting it. So it's like perhaps what commentary is trying to say is like they're in between like a Boston crab, a sharpshooter, or a scorpion deathlock.
Okay.
Just my read of the situation. But again, I'm very new to commentary, so who knows how I did. From this match that takes place outside of AEW and AAA. So this feud is already expanded to like multiple different companies. And so it's like, oh, these guys hate each other so much. They're like not even wrestling on AEW right now. They're just kind of jumping around to wherever. So they have the first match a month later, the big event, the first event for AEW called Double or Nothing, where the Lucha Bros and the Young Bucks fight for the AAA tag team titles, and the Young Bucks win.
Rude as hell. This was the first match that I watched in this series, and this is the first time I've ever watched the Young Bucks too. So I was quite thrilled at how skilled, like hearing you describe them as kind of all of the super moves of a character, of all of the super moves of a fighting game, and all at once, pretty much made a lot of sense. Like they go full octane, and they also do sound a little bit like fighting game characters because they'll shout out stuff. They'll do like verbal taunts while they're doing moves. So one that was repeated in this one was like "See you later," and he's on the apron and he kicks somebody's head and he's saying "See you later." And then there's also a suck it where they go over the top rope with their with their legs spread out, and then they bring their opponent's head in between their legs as they're landing. So they are video game characters. I also do want to kind of ask about what's going on with their outfits, because you mentioned that they're like fun guys and they're being a little ironic with what they wear, but it's a little tough for me. I think outfits are really big for me, and
Sure.
the Young Bucks outfits are interesting.
If their outfits now are pissing you off, the deeper we get into this feud, they really lean into that.
Uh-huh,
So
yeah.
here's what I can say. Here's what I know. The Young Bucks are usually bad guys when they're wrestling.
Oh, okay.
And so they're always leaning into finding little ways to needle you, I think, as an audience watching. And so I truly think at the time, right, when they're making a name for themselves, everybody's kind of like a generic blank slate badass character, right? They all wear black, they all do whatever. And so then these fucking pricks come in neon colors, and they're like calling it out like see ya, and then they're doing all
Yeah.
these flips and doing all this stuff, and you're like, fuck these guys. Like you're supposed to get mad. I think. I really
Okay.
think it's
Okay.
like it's designed to piss you off a little bit, and also I think it's just kind of a goofy, fun throwback to, like obviously they're huge students of wrestling history. They're doing the suckets, so they're always kind of referencing one of their big moves is it's called the Indie Taker, where they hit a tombstone
Ha.
on you, and so it's like, yeah, they're doing the Undertaker's move. They're doing suckets. They're like doing all kinds super kicks. They're doing all kinds of things. So I do think they're a little bit referencing a bygone era of wrestling that was very bright and colorful and cartoony. And I think that leads into their cocky, ruining professional wrestling aesthetic, I think. But
Sure.
also if you think they look like dorks, you're also not wrong. So it's
It's
like that. I think that's what they're attempting, but if it doesn't work for you, I don't think it doesn't have to.
okay, that's fair. Yeah, the fringe on the ankles really kind of takes me out of it a little bit. But
Sure,
it's no
for
big deal.
sure.
Again,
For
it's
sure.
my problem. It's my problem. There's a move that happened in the PWG match that we watched that they repeated here, which I think was a great call because in both times that the Lucha Bros do this move, the commentators fucking explode. So basically, they do this like standing leapfrog, but it's to the outside of the ring. So both of the Young Bucks are outside of the ring, and then Pentagon is basically ends up being a springboard for Ray Phoenix, and Ray Phoenix jumps on his shoulders and then launches off of Pentagon into the Young Bucks. And I don't know. I cannot even.
Pentagon plants himself at the edge of the ring. Then Phoenix runs, bounce off the ropes, jumps onto his brother's shoulders, and then flips out of the ring off of his brother.
The creativity of like luchadors and then like high flying wrestlers is just out of control. I really love it. And they're being this ridiculous throughout the entire match. And one thing that I do love about these again, I'm going to say it again, like high octane matches is that there always is a moment where every wrestler is is on the mat just like heaving and they're all tired, and then that ends up being like an applause break.
The way the Young Bucks and the Lucha Bros tag team wrestle,
Hmm.
it's like they're able to move so incredibly fast that it creates opportunities where it's like these guys are over here, well these guys are over here setting something up. And so it's like it really, like, they all are wrestling at a super fast pace, but I was always just looking around and being like, oh, they can create it as such to where they never necessarily have to take a break because all four guys are going so fast and setting things up so independently, where it's like something's going on over here, they hit the big move, we jump over here, another huge move, and then meanwhile this guy's snuck over and he's fighting this guy, and then these guys are setting up, and so it's just like constantly like all over the place, and you're just like, oh my god, they're all going so fast, they're going at like lightning speed, it's insane.
It's really a treat. It's really a treat to watch. And also in this match, the Young Bucks do fucking Young Buck stuff where they team up against one person, but it's not just teaming up on one person for one move. They do like several moves and then go and get the other guy who's just like kind of like standing waiting, and he just gets kicked in the face or like fucking cuttered or something. It's ridiculous.
The Young Bucks win this first encounter at Double or Nothing. And
Hmm.
so from there, we jump back outside of AEW to AAA again a month later for, I believe it's called Verano de Escalando, which means Summer of Scandal, which is sick name, dude.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
yeah.
Where the
Verano de Escándalo.
Escandala, yeah,
Yeah,
where the Lucha Bros are able to get their titles back from the Young Bucks,
thank
which I got
goodness.
to imagine, because it's like these are AAA titles. If you wanted to have the big moment, you obviously would pay that off in AAA, right?
Right, totally. Yeah, and this match went for 12 minutes and 3 seconds. And what I've noticed about the AAA matches that I watch is that they are considerably shorter than the other matches that we saw outside of AAA, and that everybody's going at the same time. Like, not just, oh, they're setting up one move outside of the ring, they're setting up one move in the ring. Everybody's just going at each other all of the time, which I kind of feel is the reason why they're a little bit shorter, because I can't imagine actually going for 25 to 30 minutes straight.
I think this is a good time to be like in traditional tag team wrestling, right? Where it's like two teams of two people, and then two guys are fighting in the ring, and their partners are standing on the corners, and
Hmm.
then you tag your partner in, and then everybody's like fighting. That's traditionally how it works. And I think in these series of matches, there are rules where it's called like a tornado tag, and basically both guys are in the ring fighting each other simultaneously. So no need for tags, no need for doing anything else. And so I also think even in that, there's a little bit of give and take, right? Where it's like, oh, we always need the folks to be on two guys, so we're doing it. But it sounds like in the AAA matches, they could care less. So it's like this fight's happening and this fight's happening over here too. And everybody's sort of doing their thing.
It's really crazy. And what's even more crazy is that Matt unmasks Pentagon, like unceremoniously. This isn't a lucha de apuestas. Like, he's being such a fuck shit that he pulls his mask off.
How did that feel as when you were watching it? Like, I assume you didn't know it was coming. So when you saw that happen, did it do something?
Yeah, it was really like, I was like, these fucking pricks, dude. Like, I cannot believe it. Like, not only are you in Mexico, not only are you like defending a title that you snatched unrightfully, now you're doing this. Like, how bad can you be, dog?
And again, just to say, like, in the tradition of lucha libre, like, the mask is sort of viewed as your identity. So it's like that. It's a huge deal for a luchador to lose their mask or to have their mask taken off, especially to have their mask taken off unceremoniously. Because normally it's like there's a match, there's a wager where you are like putting your identity on the line.
Yeah, it's like understood.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like the stakes are high when that's happening. But in this, to just be like, fuck you, right? It is like, and I do think it's like treated with it's treated with a weight that, like, because I saw a forced unmasking in a later match, and it truly like I gasped. Yeah. I really felt bad when it was happening.
I also noticed that the refs count really slow in AAA.
Interesting.
Like, very slow. It's like 1, 2, 3. It's like, holy hell, you really have to get these guys down.
Yeah, it's like you're down for a 6 count at that point.
Yeah, 100%.
So from that match, we are back in AEW, right, for an event called Fight for the Fallen. So it's like each team is fighting somebody else. So it's like the Young Bucks are fighting a team called the Brotherhood, which is Cody Rhodes and his brother Dustin Rhodes.
Oh.
And then the Lucha Bros fight a team called SoCal Uncensored. And then after the match, the Lucha Bros officially challenge the Young Bucks, and they put their tag titles on the line again in a ladder match.
Okay.
And this match becomes known as Escalera de la Muerte, Ladder of Death. And that's set for All Out August 31st, 2019. So 2 months. So they call their shot. They're like, in 2 months, we challenge you for these ladder match.
This match is crazy, dude. Like, we've seen some crazy stuff thus far. Like, we've talked about how both of these teams are so athletic and incredible. And then to factor in ladders and also tables.
I think that was the other thing too that I was talking about. It's like, this is why I like that this is happening in a tag team setting, because a lot of times in a ladder match, right, like you have to maneuver the ladder into place. You have to get the table set up and do all that kind of stuff. Because there are 4 guys all moving at double speed, it's like, oh, they can get the ladder pretty much wherever they need it in a seamless, flawless fashion. They can like get it in the position it needs to go into. And then like, while that's getting set up, these guys are setting up a table over here. And so it's like, we can go from a ladder spot to a table spot to a this, like, and it's just like, it's just built into where they are always hitting the gas.
Yeah.
And because again, I think just functionally in a normal ladder match, it moves slower because it's like one guy has to get a ladder over to here, but it's like in this, it's like, no way, dude. Like, we're setting up the ladder here while these guys are setting up the table. And then it's like, while you guys are fighting there, we can kind of move the ladder into a different position. And it's just like totally wild. And I think the thing that became abundantly clear to me is these teams are so comfortable with each other at this point.
Yeah.
There is just such a like ease of like, they're just in a crazy rhythm with each other. That just allows them to know each other's move sets. And so I think you see them referencing old matches. You see them being able to like twist, like, oh, we know what the Young Bucks usually do. Let's like twist it and turn it on its head and use it against them or whatever.
And I saw stuff in this match that I haven't seen before. One, they were using the ladders to launch off of and into and onto the ropes. And it's kind of like if you ever played Street Fighter 3 where Vega can like jump off of the wall to get a little higher and stuff. It looked like that. I also have never seen a wrestler climb a ladder as fast as these guys are climbing. They like
Yeah.
actually climbed the ladder instead of like, oh, I'm weak, I guess.
Yeah, in traditional ladder matches, there's usually that drama of like, oh, I'm so hurt, I gotta climb my way up, and it's like it adds to the tension. Whereas these guys are just like, no, I want to win these titles. Like,
Yeah, they've
like
like they jump onto the ladder to climb up. It's crazy.
yeah,
And what the last thing that I want to mention here is we usually see like tag teams move in sync together. So you're moving with your partner, but in this match, because they know each other so well, they were mirroring each other, and I've never seen that, and I really enjoyed seeing that.
yeah. There was kind of there were two moments that I noticed that was exactly like that. So there was a moment where Phoenix and Nick Jackson are fighting on the apron, right? So they're
Hmm.
outside of the ring and they're just like balancing and they're like kicking the hell out of each other. And then meanwhile, Matt and Pentagon are fighting in the ring and they both turn and notice that the other one's tag partner is in their line of sight. And they
Uh-huh.
kind of look back at each other and it feels like a game of chicken of just like, oh, you don't think I'll take your brother out? And the other guy's like, oh, you don't think I'll take your brother out? And so they both kind of are like, fuck it, let's go. And they both like run and spear the other one's tag team partner through the ring ropes, off the ring, and through a table. And so
I
it's
can't
just like,
believe this.
oh my God. And then there's an echo of that later
Hmm.
where like Matt and Pentagon are both like laying down on tables and then they're on either sides of the ring. And
Hmm.
then Phoenix and Nick climb up the ladders, and the entire time they're both kind of looking at each other like, you don't think I'm gonna go up another rung? You don't think I'm gonna keep going? And then it gets to the point where like Phoenix is standing precariously at the top of the ladder and he's like
Yeah.
dancing, being like, I don't give a fuck. And then they both at the same time just do a crossbody off the top and then just land 15 feet through into a table. And so I think something to highlight about the Lucha Bros, I think we kind of mentioned it where it's like Phoenix is a high flyer. And
Yeah.
so he is just obsessively like levitating the entire time. And he's just like up and bouncing off the ropes and like
Yeah.
tightrope walking and doing all this kind of stuff. At one point, this one was insane where it's like he runs and just kind of dives through. It's like this narrow window where it's like the ladder is set up and then
Uh-huh.
there's the ring ropes and he just dives through the ladder outside to like hit somebody and you're just like, I don't know, the superstitious person to me was like, you're walking through a ladder, what are you doing? Like it's like clearly, no fear like that, but it was
So
just
here.
insane to see. And I think that was the other thing that was really standing out to me in this match was
Hmm.
a lot of times you see a wrestler get set where they're like, okay, I'm going to go up on the top turnbuckle and I'm going to like make sure I'm set and then I'm going to jump. But I feel like these guys just kind of leap up there and be like, all right, I'm up. And then they just immediately jump off. And it just feels, again, I think it's like because they're so dialed in and so professional. But to me, I'm like, this
Sure.
feels reckless to be like, I don't
Yeah.
even know if I have my footing and I'm going to jump. And then then they do.
It is just a sight to see. And also I don't remember which young buck it was, but they also were jumping through ladders as well.
Hmm.
Because they obviously didn't want to be outdone.
The Young Bucks are also high flyers. So they
Yeah.
are and it's like I think that's on display too, where it's like instead of just getting out of the ring, they will just like flip in and out and through and over the ropes. And so it's just like these guys are moving so fast and so athletically. And it's just like, yeah, it's so unbelievably crazy. And so it's like this match is just like foot on the gas immediately.
Yeah.
And they're going for it. And it builds to the sequence where I think Pentagon and Matt are at the top of the ladder. And then once again, Matt pulls off Pentagon's mask. And this is where I gasped. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God. And so it's like he covers his mask. And he, again, I think this is why it just goes to show like what a big deal this is for luchadors, is he's like no longer concerned about winning the title. He's
Yeah.
like, it truly feels like he pulled his face out. He's like on the ground.
Yeah.
He's writhing. And again, I think the commentary does a really good job of being like,
Move the camera, dude.
This is a bridge too far. Like, this is
Yeah.
not cool. And they like cover Pentagon and they let him put his mask back on. So they
Love
go for
that.
it. But boy, oh boy, do the Lucha Bros get their revenge on the Young Bucks, because they set up a ladder on the outside of the ring. So it's like balanced out there precariously. So they've like made a bridge from
Across,
the ring to like the barricades.
Yeah.
So they've made like a little bridge. And Pentagon loads up Matt Jackson basically into a little ball, and his head is poking out. And he's going to jump, it's called a pile driver, and land directly on Matt's head, basically.
Oh
and then on the way down, Phoenix leaps off the top turnbuckle and then kicks Matt Jackson, so he like slams down harder. They crash onto the fucking ladder. Pentagon climbs, they climb, and you better believe they get those goddamn titles.
Absolutely. Holy shit. I had goosebumps that were like ripping out of my skin at the end of this match. I cried for sure. For sure I cried. Oh my god. I can't believe it. There's also this spot where they have, I think it was Pentagon, in a sharpshooter, that submission hold that we were talking about. And then they put a ladder on top of his neck. And then the other Young Buck cross faces him, which is another submission move where you're just basically holding the fish like this.
So he's like pinned down with the ladder, and then they're
his
just
legs
like
are this way.
So
He's
they're
pulling
bending
the
him
fish.
this way, and then they're bending him this way, and he's pinned down by the ladder. And you're just like, this is insane.
I can't believe it. I can't believe it. And I feel like at the end, when they win, or right before they win, was it Nick that kind of took a little bit of a spill? Like he was on a ladder, and the ladder was pushed, and we see that this was an unplanned thing where his feet catch the top ropes, and he just smashes into tables that he previously set up.
Like head first.
Yeah, like he's done. He doesn't come back. And the commentators even call it. They're like, oh yeah, well, this has just turned into a handicap match. Like, we're down a Young Buck.
Yeah, it that was like a nasty fall. Absolutely.
Yeah, it was scary.
Yeah. So what was the official wrestling stopwatch on this, Samee?
The official wrestling stopwatch on this one was 22 minutes and 49 seconds.
We were talking about New Japan. They've got those nice long 45-minute to an hour matches. But this one felt like 45 minutes, not in a bad way, but it's just like they were doing so much where you look at the time, you're like, that was 20 minutes? Like, oh my God.
Well, yeah, all of your entire body. I feel like watching all of these matches, like these guys, because they're going so fast and so hard, your body is put through fight or flight. So you're either like frozen in fear or stomping around your living room. I don't know which one I was, but it's a lot. It's a lot, and I love it.
So from here, the teams kind of go again. They go their own separate ways, and their paths do not cross again in AEW for 2 years.
You think they're mad at each other?
Yeah, I do. I really do. It seems like these guys hate each other.
God.
So in the intervening 2 years, here's like just the briefest of brief what happened. So we mentioned, because this was for the AAA tag titles. Mm-hmm. So in October 30th, 2019, they have a tournament to decide the inaugural AEW Tag Team Champions. And the Lucha Bros make it all the way to the finals. And then they are once again taken out by SoCal Uncensored, which is a name that really seems to be getting a reaction out of Samee. I don't think the name's the best, but it's Christopher Daniels, Frankie Kazarian, and Scorpio Sky, who are very Samee. They are very good wrestlers.
Sure, I'm sure they're great wrestlers. Their name sucks.
Again, I feel like this is the episode where Samee's like, a couple of notes, do we love SoCal Uncensored? Do we love that name? Do we love long t-shirts? Do we love not fully knowing how to commentate?
We don't love that one for sure.
Yeah. Also, I guess it's just like important to note, like, you really seem to be connecting with the AEW commentator. That's Excalibur. That's the same guy who did the commentary for PWG. So,
I wasn't connecting with him.
Yeah, you were. You've quoted him several times. Like everything you've
making
quoted
fun of him. Wait, what?
Everything you've quoted from commentary on that last match, that was Excalibur, who was the commentator in PWG.
I didn't quote.
Same guy.
I didn't quote. I didn't say anything. I didn't quote anything from Excalibur.
Okay. Hey, Samee, it seems like you really need a win this episode, so you're right. That was all off the dome,
Look,
and
I don't need to win anything. I'm totally fine being a loser.
you know who's also not fine with being a loser is the Lucha Bros,
Yeah.
because once again, make it to the finals of this tournament. They don't win. They don't get to pick up the titles. Title kind of, bounces around a little bit, and it's not until Full Gear, November 7th, 2020, that the Young Bucks fight the, at the time, current tag team champions. They're called FTR, and that is a rivalry worthy of its own episode. Incredible matches between those guys. And the Young Bucks go on to pick up the AEW tag team titles, and then they hold them for a very, very long time. And so in the intervening year that they're holding the titles, they start to become extra bad guys.
Oh,
And
how?
the way that manifests is, one, they just start kind of leaning into being hype beasts. So if you don't like the outfits that they were wearing then, they're wearing fuckboy designer outfits. And then the big thing that they're doing
Guys.
is every week buying super valuable sneakers. So Air Jordans and stuff, and Travis Scott's, all those kinds of things, and are wrestling in them. And then sneakerheads online are getting so mad. They're like, I cannot believe they're wearing these Dior's and they're wrestling. I can't believe this.
That's so
So mad.
funny. How did you
So
like it when they were doing that?
again, it's I thought the clothes were whatever, but the sneakers, that was one where you're like, oh, I'm not necessarily a sneaker guy, but I'm sneaker curious, and so it
Sure.
was one of those things of being like, those are nice shoes, those are really nice shoes, and they're ruining these or whatever. And I don't know if they ever did it, but I did see an interview that they did with, they have Complex where they do the sneaker shopping with
Sure.
Joe LaPuma or whatever. And and Matt was like, my dream is I really want to set these shoes on fire and super kick somebody with them. So it's like
Oh my
they
God.
really were aware that people were mad, and they're like, oh, it pissed people off even more is if we set these shoes on fire.
So they're just little fucking
They're little troublemakers.
Dennis the Menace.
Absolutely.
People.
They get that people are mad, and so they're like, yeah, we'll give them a reason to be mad. The other thing they were doing is they started having more guys come in, and some of their old Bullet Club buddies who were in TNA were kind of showing up in AEW and helping them out. They were helping them cheat. And so it got to the point where the Young Bucks were cheating so much that the owner, Tony Khan, was basically like, all right, here's the deal. I'm going to hold a tournament, and whoever wins the tournament gets to challenge the Young Bucks in a steel cage. So that way, nobody can cheat. The Lucha Bros, once again, they're in the tournament. Once again, make it to the finals, except this time, they pull out all the stops and they win. Meaning, they are once again back at All Out, 2 years from their last encounter with the Young Bucks, challenging for the AEW Tag Team Champions. Instead of a ladder match, this time it's a steel cage match.
I think I lost years of my life watching this, not because it was slow paced, but because I was so stressed out and my heart was racing through all of it that I definitely aged maybe 5 years.
When we were talking about the ladder match, they were, because again, it's like 4 guys moving around constantly. They're in and out of the ring. They're everywhere. But in a cage match, it's that frantic energy happening in a super confined space. So it's like these guys are just running, and they are just throwing each other into this cage, kicking each other in this cage, spearing each other into this cage, using the cage to assist. So it's like you're up on the top rope, and then you run up the cage so you can jump down even harder.
Literally run up the cage.
I thought the ladder match was violent, but this steel cage match gets insanely violent in a way that I was not anticipating. It really was like, oh my God.
We actually see them start bleeding in this one.
Yeah. And in this match, it's like the Young Bucks are firmly heel. And I think the first ladder match, it really felt like the Lucha Bros were really in control. And in this cage match, it really feels like the Young Bucks are much more in control. And
Yeah.
it's like, to the point where they're like sneaking in chains and they're like choking out Pentagon with like a chain. And you're like, this is unbelievable. This is like so brutal. This is so violent. I can't believe it. And then I want to say like midway through the match,
Mm-hmm.
one of their cronies, Brandon Cutler, throws a little like throws a little bag into the ring. They
Yeah.
catch it and they pull
Oh, it's
out
his doctor's bag.
yeah, they pull out
Sorry.
they open a doctor's bag and they pull out a sneaker with thumbtacks all over the bottom. And then Matt puts on the sneaker and we all know that he's about to super kick Phoenix in the face
I'm
with a
getting
shoe with
goosebumps.
spikes on it.
I'm just getting goosebumps just hearing you talk about it. This
And
is
it's
so
like
fucked up.
it's bad. It's like Phoenix is on his knees, and it's like he's like out on his knees, and you're like, this is fucked up. And then Matt Jackson is gonna kick him in the face, and then you see Pentagon see all this happen, and he dives in front and just
Yeah,
protects his brother, and is basically like, "Not take me," and they do. They kick
they
him
do.
in the fucking face,
Yeah.
and
And
then
this is
like when they're
after
on the
they
ground,
both.
they rip their masks too, and so it's
Yeah,
like you can see Pentagon. It's like his face, you're seeing more of it than you've ever seen, and it's like bleeding. And then it's like, then Matt Jackson like hops up on the turnbuckle and just sticks his foot out. And then his brother picks Pentagon up and then just runs him into the foot again.
I can't believe it. That was a lot.
Yeah. And
Savagery.
and so it's like Pentagon is just like bleeding it profusely.
Shouldn't have put him in a cage.
Should not have put him in a cage. That allows Phoenix to kind of get back into the fight and start
Mm-hmm.
turning the tide so that the Lucha Bros can get back in the conversation. And then it builds to kind of one of my favorite spots that I see whenever it happens in a wrestling ring, where basically all four men kind of stand in a square and they
Yes.
just kind of start going around the horn. So it's like this guy chops this guy chops this guy chops this, and it goes all the way around the horn. So they're like, chop, chop,
They
chop, chop,
chop
chop, chop,
first,
chop, chop,
yeah.
chop, chop. And then they start super kick, super kick, super kick. And it's like, so it's like chop, 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 kick, 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 kick. And then they all like fall down. You're like, that's so wild. That's so brutal. That's so
Yeah.
unbelievably nuts.
And every chop and every kick sounded like a fucking shotgun. Like they were just so loud and brutal.
The first kind of half of the match, the Young Bucks are just kind of dominating the Lucha Bros. And then it builds to this moment. So it's like they're kind of referencing that pile driver they gave Matt, where it's like Pentagon sets him up and then Phoenix goes like, I want to do the thing where I kick him. And then you see him like look up and he's like, all right. So he climbs the cage, which is like 20 feet in the air. And so you're like, are they really about to pile driver Matt Jackson's fucking head in with a like 20-foot drop kick assist?
Yep.
So it's like right when they do that, I think like Nick Jackson sees this happening. He super kicks. He kind of diffuses the whole situation.
Yeah.
And then like he again climbs the cage really fast, tries to get up there, but it's like before he can fully make it, Phoenix just like has the high ground and kicks him. He falls off the cage. And then it just gets to this thing where like Phoenix leap of faith off the top of the cage, hits everybody, clears the ring, get the pin, and you better believe the Lucha Bros win the goddamn AEW tag team titles.
Oh my god.
And it's so raw, it's so violent that like Pentagon, he gets the title. You can see that he's super overcome. He like hugs it. And when he does, there's blood all over the title, just a crazy visual.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, again, it's like these guys got battered. They're bleeding. Their masks are ripped. They're like overcome with emotion. And then this was the image that really stuck with me, was on the way out. Pentagon's family came over the barricade, and it was like you could see him like hugging and they're all like crying together, and you could really see that this was a super important moment for him and his career and him and his brother, and that they had just come so far from again, these guys who were making a name for themselves on the American Indies, and they were like challenging the big boys at the top of the pack, and they didn't come out successful. And like here they are 6 years later from their first PWG encounter, and they're like beating them for the top prize in that company.
This is crazy. I'm pretty sure I love the Lucha Bros after this.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Just a final question for you, Michael, regarding the Lucha Bros. Would you save me from a thumbtack shoe?
I would.
Well, but you wouldn't save me from looking like a doof.
Well, here's the thing, Samee, and I'm really glad you brought that up.
Sure.
When I threw down that challenge to you, the
Yeah.
only reason I did it is because I believe in you so much
No, you
that I
didn't.
thought you were going to rise to the occasion
I never
and not
rise.
fully crumble under the pressure and then get kind of mad and lash out at me for like 10 minutes.
I'm lashing out for about 70 minutes, and here's some more. I don't think you believed in me at all.
I did.
Just
I
kidding.
did. And I would, because so I challenged you because I believe in you.
Hey,
But
thanks. I
if
think we should
somebody
do it
was going
every
to super
episode.
kick you with a spike shoe,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd jump in. I would take that.
Hey, thanks, man.
You're welcome. So, Samee,
Yeah.
that's the Lucha Bros. You went through that
Holy
whole
shit.
gauntlet. We went to Lucha Underground. We went to PWG. We went to AEW. We went to
20
AAA.
feet up in the air.
20 feet up in the air. We went through a goddamn table. We went through ladders. How do you feel about the Lucha Bros now that we've gone through this whole gauntlet together?
I really love them, and I do feel a little bad because when I was researching the Lucha Bros, obviously we hit some articles or videos and stuff that were just completely in Spanish. I'm like, frick, we are missing that little more or that much more context from there. So I don't know, maybe the Lucha Bros have inspired me to finally learn Spanish.
Yeah, and when I was doing my research, like, there are so many interviews in Spanish language interviews where they're just talking to the Lucha Bros, and they seem like such cool, charming dudes.
Yeah, totally.
Incredible T-shirt salesmen. I can tell you that from experience. Just like really
Sure.
cool, really solid dudes. And this is why I love doing Wrestling Academy, because it's like I had heard so much about Lucha Underground, but I had never like challenged myself to like get outside my WWE, NXT, AEW kind of comfort zone to check something different out. And it's like, I was so glad that I did, because now I want to keep watching Lucha Underground. I want to keep getting into it. And it was just like, you don't let things like language be a barrier. If you want to watch matches in Japan, like, what's going to be universal? The fact that these guys are beating the hell out of each other. And I
that's what we
think,
love to see.
yeah, violence is a universal language. The Lucha Bros 100% speak it.
100%. Also, do you think that they would be such a good team if they weren't brothers? Like, do you think that there's like a special, like, beautiful bond between brothers who wrestle or siblings who wrestle together?
I do truly think that absolutely adds to the magic, but it is just like looking at Phoenix and Pentagon as solo wrestlers are incredible. Like Phoenix, third ever Lucha Underground champion, was the first. We didn't even mention this. Is like the first ever Triple Crown champion in Lucha Underground, meaning he was the first guy to hold 3 different titles in that company. Pentagon, one of the longest reigns in Lucha Underground history. Like, these guys are highly decorated. So had they been together, would have been an incredible tag team. But I do think because that they're brothers, they do have that extra special bond where it's like, yeah, I mean, you have siblings, you know how it goes. Like me and my sister are able to communicate through looks, you know what I mean? And so it's like that absolutely is going to translate to the ring, where it's like there's a trust and an anticipation and a communication that is going to happen on a deeper level because they're related, I think.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Love that for us. That's Wrestling Academy episode 6
in the books.
We've done it, and you've done it. Thank you so much for listening to Wrestling Academy. It is hosted and produced by me, Samee, and Michael Classic. You can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Wrestling Academy Pod. Send us an email at wrestlingacademypod@gmail.com. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts, and also, if there is a place to rate us and review us, please do, but only if they're good. You can also, truly. On Spotify, we do questions and polls every week. So if you like participating in a podcast like that, please follow us there.
Yeah, so I think what we would love to know is if you have any, like, I'm obsessed with Lucha Underground right now. So if
Yeah.
there are any characters or storylines we absolutely need to check out, I would love to start there.
Yeah, please do. And check out our website at wrestlingacademy.university because, yes, that is our super real URL because we commit to the bit. Class is dismissed.
Oh man, I was gonna try to do it, but you beat me to the punch. Ah,
What?
class dismissed.